Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This month, I'm speaking with Fred Lee from Late Night Special. L&S, as their beloved fans call them, weave rock, Americana, folk, and pop into a unique sound all their own. The band comprises Fred Lee on vocals and guitar, Derek Furr on lead guitar, Mikey Marrero on lead guitar, bass, and vocals, and of course, there's James Brock on drums. Fred Lee, welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast. Thank you for coming on today, man. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. So glad to be here.
So, Fred, I always start off the podcast the same way. Are you originally from the Charlotte area?
I am originally from the Charlotte area. I grew up in a little town called Mount Pleasant, North Carolina, which is about 30 minutes kind of northeast of Charlotte.
What's your music background, Fred? Can you fill us in?
So my music background is not too long. I guess it's getting longer every day. I started playing when I was like 20 years old. I had a really good friend, Dylan Burleson, who him and his brother Austin both played guitar, and I would go hang out with them, and we always watched them play music, and I was like, damn, man, they're so good. And one night I went over to hang out with the guys, and they were all going to the club, but the younger brother Dylan wasn't old enough to go to the club. So he's like, hey man, hang back. Let's chill out, drink some beers, smoke a little bit, and let's do some jamming. And I was like, all right, yeah, I can't play, but he's like, I'll teach you tonight. Well, he shows me a G chord that night, and I'm like, wow, I played a G chord. I was like, I have this guitar at home. Let me bring it to you and get it strung. Well, they get this guitar strung up. It was my dad's, and we had been like abusing this guitar. And turns out it's a Sigma acoustic guitar, which is like Martin's down brand, but it was like a really nice 1980s kind of maybe 1990 like Sigma. And they're like, wow, man, this guitar is so nice, dude. We're going to get it strung up for you. They get it strung up, and I start playing. I was like, I learned one chord. Well, I finally learned a couple chords, and then I learned a Jimi Hendrix song. And I was like, wow, I just learned a song, And then from there, it's just rapid fire. Never put it down. Like, always had it in my hand. About a year later, I broke my hand. I broke my wrist snowboarding.
Oh.
And I lost my job. I had just gotten some trouble, and I just sat down for like 3 months while my wrist was broken. I started writing these songs out of nowhere. It was so weird. Started putting together my own lyrics to these songs, and it was like kind of immediately following, within that same 6 months, I saw like my first Tom Petty concert. I learned how to play Last Dance with Mary Jane, and I sang it around some of my friends, and they were like, dude, we didn't know you could sing. I was like, oh, I didn't know I could sing. Y'all just said, hey, you know the lyrics, sing it. And so I sang it. That's where it all kind of starts. Within like a year, I meet a classmate of mine, Bradley Cannon, who was playing percussion in another band. I bring him on as a percussion player. We go out to open mic, and everybody comes out to see us in our hometown in Concord, at this place called Little Roberts. And
yeah, I've been there, played there. Great place.
Yeah. So everybody comes out. I think they were there to kind of see me fall on my face. They're like, what does Fred think he's doing? Like out here singing his songs. And then, slowly through that night, everybody just came up and said the greatest things. Like one of my really good friends, Robbie, like comes up. He's like, dude, you really sound like Anthony Kiedis. I was like, what? Like, what a compliment, man. Like, dang, there's no way I sound like that. But, and a bunch of my other friends were like, man, where did Fred learn to sing? And I was just like, yeah, y'all are telling the wrong person this. I was like, I'm going to run with it. I've always just been a person that's like, I have to be really good at something that I'm going to do. And I asked my parents a long time ago, like, what do you guys think about me being a musician for a living? And they're like, Fred, I wouldn't quit your day job. At the time I was cutting hair, which my dad's a hairdresser. So I was cutting hair, and I always laugh and joke with them about that. They're like, don't tell people that. Don't tell people we said that.
So you start playing around in your 20s. You start playing guitar, and you start writing songs, and then you get to Little Roberts, and things go well at Little Roberts. At that point, you start saying, hey man, this might work out. When does it start to become Late Night Special? How far after you start playing do you start getting into like, I'm going to do this band thing. Let's put this together and see how it goes. When does it start to become Late Night Special? Or was it Late Night Special before?
No. Before Late Night Special, we went by this name, which I thought it was like a really clever name. I liked the idea behind the name, but the name kind of sucked. It was called Euphoria Effect is what we went by. And, cause I was like, we just want to make people feel good. We want to be the feel good effect, and, it never rang off the tongue right. I was like, whatever. It's not quite there. But one night, like I said, me and Bradley, the original members of the band, were going around to these open mics in town. And, I don't know, we were up there playing one night and I was just goofing around and I was like, started talking kind of like I don't even know. I just started talking in this wild voice and I was like, this is the Fergita and Badrice Late Night Special. Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready for this? We just went with it. And after the show, I was like, you know what? Late Night Special rings, brother. That's a good name. And, we looked it up. No band name on record. So we're like, bam, snag it. Let's go with it until we find something else. And, as we progress, everybody we meet's like, man, we love your name. And then they're like, yeah, what's your band name? Saturday Night Special, Friday Night Special. Are you Midnight Special? Oh, you're like a CCR cover band? I'm like, oh, we got a marketing problem here. People can't remember our name, so, like I said, I love the name. I'm so attached because I haven't found a better one.
Right.
But, I don't know. It's also like, man, you built it this far. Why do you want to change your name at this point? Does the name really matter? If people, if something pops off, people will remember that name, but.
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at some of the metal bands and they've got these long drawn out names and I'm thinking, wow, that's really hard. And you think in the 70s and whatever 60s, people had a one word name that was really short, Cream, Rush, and you start getting into the 80s and then you have Led Zeppelin and now you've got I don't know, 5-6 letters or words in a band's name. So it's kind of crazy what bands are called today.
Yeah. Like some of those metal bands, like Found for Glory or Newfound Glory, and then there's a band called Glory Found, and you're like, wait, it's like, they have huge success. Those bands are doing great. That the name didn't slow them down one bit. So I always chuckle. I'm like, nah, whatever.
If you like it and it works, just use it. I mean, that's where I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you guys do the show. You come up with the name Late Night Special. How long after you guys started is it until you get the core members that you currently have that you've been working with?
So it starts in 2013 and by 2015 is where we meet Robert, or 2014, we meet Robert Shoemaker and, Derek Furr. We kind of had met Derek Furr and had dabbled playing with him and saw him at Little Roberts playing with a band called Kodiak Brotherhood. And like I said, we asked him to come play with us, and that's where it kind of establishes right there in 2015 when we dropped the album. It's just momentum is carrying. I keep telling these guys, let's get together. Let's make this happen. Let's band it up, baby. Let's be the band. And from there, it happens, we do this album release show, which feels so surreal because everybody's counting us to be a flop. And then we pack out a place with 200, 250 people. And it just feels good as a new and upcoming band, never really playing in the Charlotte scene. You're seeing other bands do it and you're like, oh, we just did it. Wow. We just did it,
So when do you think, when you guys started, so you get the core members of the band and you're getting things going, did you have a vision for the band when you started? Did you have an idea of hey, we're just cause a band's got to play, right? So the Charlotte scene has not always been original friendly. So were you guys out there thinking, all right, well, we'll go out there doing covers and we'll sneak in some originals? Did you guys think right away we're just doing original music? And when you were doing the original music, were you thinking this is the style we're going to head into? Or did you just let your heart lead you? Whatever you wrote is what comes out.
Yeah, a lot of it's started as we would do a couple covers in the beginning and but a lot of it started as playing this original music at the open mics. We would go to these open mics and do the originals. People were like, hey, your originals are kind of good. And our first big, no, I wouldn't even say big gig, but this gig that was consistent. We played No to 101 every week for $50. It was so terrible.
There you go.
I felt so bad now thinking about it. But, we had great friends and we loved, Bradley worked at the Neighborhood Theater. We were very involved in seeing shows there. I mean, something happened in the last 5 or 6 years at Neighborhood Theater. They don't get me wrong. They still get good shows, but the amount of shows that are there are cut into like a fourth, an eighth, 16th of what it was, such a small amount. There would be like, I was telling Bradley this the other night, like he used to work there and he would let me get in the show for free. And like, it would be like a month, it would be like Tuesday through Sunday, epic shows off Monday. Like it would be something every single night you would want to see. And then, it's just not like that anymore. And it's kind of frustrating now thinking like, man, we'd see like Bootsy Collins come through, like with Parliament, all these great bands on a Tuesday or Wednesday night at the Neighborhood Theater. And now it's like you're lucky if any of those bands are even coming on a Friday or Saturday night.
Right.
And now obviously shows have completely obliterated because, COVID. But, that, being in that neighborhood scene at that time, man, it was so strong. There was so much good music coming through the Neighborhood Theater. It was bringing tons more people through the neighborhood that were like really vibey on the scene. They loved music.
Sure.
They were the music like appreciators, One thing I've always thought was weird is like when we would play in Noda, you'd get these like roaring applause after a song. But when we would play in South End, it would be like crickets after a song. And then, of course, we're out here gigging at the bar, so it doesn't, it's not like we're looking for people to go crazy. But it's just, it was interesting how the neighborhood around Noda was such an music appreciation place. Like you went there if you wanted to see live music on the weekend or a weeknight. And being so in that scene and being like, we would go to shows at the Rue, at the Evening Muse, at, Jack Beagle's, like we were at Noda 101 if somebody else was playing, we were there in the neighborhood hanging out. And we met so many great friends and so many good Charlotte transplants or, people that were, also born and raised here around the Charlotte area. And we developed our own like group of people, and through building up other bands through Shakedown, that all like pushed us to get out there and do that, like keep doing the original music thing. Like I've always wanted to do the original music thing. When I decided to do music full time, that's when I took on more of the cover persona to like, while I'm out at the bars, I play covers and we save our original, shows like at Neighborhood or at Visual Light Theater or,
Yeah. You gotta make, make money. So, and if that's what the venue, the bar is asking for is covers, that's kind of what you got to do until Charlotte starts to, really say, hey, we're going to just let guys come in and do music and do their original stuff.
Right. Right.
And that'll change the crowd. So Fred, do you guys have a vision for what you wanted the music to be like? Cause your music's kind of got this rock, folk / Americana vibe to it. Did you have a vision for that, or were you just kind of just writing and that's what comes out?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it is like, that's just what comes out. I do a lot of writing in the flow. Like I'll be out at a show and just be kind of like, if I'm at a cover show playing the bar, I'll be getting maybe a little bit bored. I'm like, I'm just going to make up a riff. I'll start playing this riff. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Loop it for a second. Start singing and I'll hear this one thing. I'll be like, that's the tagline. Suck it out. Like start using it. Put it as the chorus, and then kind of like I'll dabble on it for 10 minutes and I'll put my phone down. And as soon as I know, like, hey, I like that riff, I like that saying, I'll keep the loop pedal on, drop my phone down and put it on record and then freestyle for 10 minutes, on this loop, and then just close it down and close my phone and then go back to it later. And a lot of times these songs that I really liked and ended up going on records were songs that I made up. And that's been one thing with me writing with other people. When we go in fresh, I'm like the hook master. I'm like, here, I'll throw you a hook and then bam, we got a hook, now build around whatever we want the song to be about through that hook, and
so we talked about it a little bit earlier. When you're talking about the songwriting process, are you the predominant songwriter in Late Night Special, or are the other guys really contributing to writing the lyrics and the chord changes and the structure? How's that work for you guys?
So before we met Mikey, and I was telling you, we met Mikey Marrero about 2.5, 3 years ago, and Mikey has brought a lot more like chordal structure and knowledge to the songs, as well as like he's wrote some of his own songs in the past and he's brought them to me. We've edited them a little bit and tried to like bring them into the Late Night Special category,
Right.
as well as we've sat down together, and me and him have actually wrote songs off of concepts. And so that's been great. Mikey has became more of a writer in some of the newer stuff we do, but predominantly, yeah, I just write all the time. And I like will bring something to the band a lot of times and say, hey, do you like this? You know, does this sound good?
So Fred, I'm looking back, you guys have 3 recordings out. You just finished your third one, in 2020. So, but the first album you put out is Live from the Showdown in 2015. Oh, excuse me, Live from the Shakedown. So tell us a little bit about Live from the Shakedown. What is that about?
So that's just a live set from one of the earlier shakedowns we did.
And the Shakedown, we didn't talk about that yet. The Shakedown's a music festival that you started running a number of years ago?
Yes. It's the Shakedown Music Festival. We've had it's the Shakedown series on Facebook. You can look it up, look at some previous pictures, or you can go shakedown.rocks is the website. That's where there's going to be a lot of information. But we're gearing that back up this year. But Live from the Shakedown was just a recording that night at the Shakedown, and I laugh about it all the time because we're so young. Like, you really get to see the raw amateurness of our musicianship.
Well, that's nice because a lot of folks today are, I don't want to say studio creations, but people aren't releasing live albums anymore.
Mm-mm.
When I was younger, I really just wanted to hear the studio recordings that a band did. I didn't really care for live shows, only going to them. I didn't want to listen to them on my recording. And now as I've gotten older, I really appreciate those live recordings because I think that's where you find out what a band is like, what they're capable of doing. Because there are some bands that are jam bands, let's say, and their song structures might be fine on the recording, but then all of a sudden you get the live album or you go see them in concert, and that 5-10 minute song is now a 25-minute song of them doing some incredible jam. So that's really what the band is about.
Right. When you look back at like, dude, Peter Frampton, was it Peter Frampton Comes Alive or whatever? That album's like the most grossing live album. And like,
yeah,
when you listen to some of those songs on there, like it's hard. It's like your mind mentally doesn't distinguish it as not the studio version. It's like, that's the version I've heard my whole life because that's the best dang version of the song, you know? So
yeah.
There's some cool stuff like that. And that's one thing looking back on it. We about put a cover version of Use Me on the last album, but some of the guys were like, it's kind of conflicting. You know, it is awesome, but it doesn't really mesh with the album.
Yeah.
And listening back to it is just a live track that we did this session one time, and just like stupid good, you know, almost unreplicatable, you know, like it's like some of the stuff we all did were mistakes, but they sounded so good.
Right.
And it's just one of those things you get from live recordings, you know, like a lot of times, sometimes you can step outside of that box and it's something you can't recreate.
Yeah.
You know?
So Fred, you guys have the 3 albums out. The latest, as I said, was Halfway to Somewhere. What's the difference in the songwriting between your first studio recording, Light of the Moon, and this second recording, Halfway to Somewhere? What's the difference in the songwriting for you guys?
So the first album, those were all songs I wrote. 7 of the songs, I think is there 8 songs on it? 7 or 8? So let's say 6 of the songs I wrote previously. We had been taking them to open mics, playing them, and that's what we wanted to record at Rob's. And then the 7th or 8th song on the album, I made up in the studio. I was like, let's make one up, and I made up these songs, which was Love in the First Degree and something else. So that was like solely me writing, and then those guys came in and recorded there. And again, I told you we did it on like a 2-channel interface.
Right.
And multiple different tracking layers, like no metronome.
So it was a fairly raw album.
Very raw album. And, I'm still pretty impressed at how it turned out with how we did it, knowing what I know now. And again, I was so amateur, and Rob recommended, he's like, why don't you come to my house and let me record you and Bradley? And I was like, dude, I'll take you up on that. Yeah, it's about time we record. And so we did that. So moving forward to the next album, over these 5 years that went by, immediately following the last album, someone hits me up on Instagram and says, hey, I listened to your album, sounds really good, but I think you could use some help with your writing. And I was like, oh, well, who the hell do you think you are, guy? And this is where we were introduced to Brandon Henson, who now goes by Brandon Hart. Phenomenal gem of a talent. We get together one night again. I'm timid. I'm like, who does this guy think he is? You know what? I need to connect. And we get in. He's like, man, you look like a Viking, dude. Like, I think I just want to write this like epic Viking hit with you. And I'm like, what does that even mean? A Viking hit.
Okay.
And we start writing this song and I was like, wow, this sounds like Kings of Leon. He's like, that's the vibe I was going for. I was like, yeah, I told you I like them. That's probably why we're doing this. That was our first session. The next session we get together at this other studio in Charlotte, and we go in this night, and me, Brandon, and like two other people, I think Bradley Cannon and this guy, Israel Gore, I think is his name. We all get together and write this song called Don't Leave Me Lonely. And it all started around the hook. It's like, my mama told me one day a love like you would own me. And that was the hook. So we start writing this song around that. We do it that night. It's the only time we ever record the song is that night pretty much. A couple months later is when we do the Visual Light Theater. Mm-hmm. Brandon comes to the Visual Light Theater with a guy named Aswan North, who is the lead singer of the Paper Tongues. They were another like kind of Charlotte band that kind of bumped up a little bit, hit the thing. I think they signed with Randy Jackson. But anyways, these two guys come out. That's when they convince us to go to Nashville. Moving forward through all these years, so like three of the songs, Disco, Don't Leave Me Lonely, and Don't Forget Your Past are all produced by Brandon Hart. And you can kind of feel that in there. They're more poppy. They're a little bit more clean. And then you've got Railroad Tracks, which was produced by a guy named Tate Huff in Nashville. That was one of the songs we like kind of really liked. It turned out really well in Nashville. The rest of them we didn't think the mixes were good enough. I remember when I first went to Nashville, I had a friend come out and he's like, yeah, your song Hold On sounds good, but you should let me rewrite the lyrics. They suck. Mm-hmm. And I was like, damn, man. Here I am, like, inviting you to our session in the studio, and you say something like that. Like, I was very offended. Turns out, here we are 5 years later, I rewrote the lyrics, you know, so it needed to happen. I wasn't ready to hear that yet, though.
Well, can we hold up, Fred? Can we take a listen to that song, Hold On?
Absolutely. Let's put it on.
Let's take a listen. This is Hold On by Late Night Special.
This life is hard, but you will grow. I never understood exactly what she meant till I was white knuckling down the freeway on my way home. Just hold on, just hold on, just hold on. The thrills are gone, there's no looking back. Got a child to teach, another one on the
Fred, that's a fantastic track. It's got this real kind of, I don't know, great Americana kind of vibe to it. Could you fill us in about it?
Yeah, man, that's kind of what we were going for. When I wrote it, I remember it was like right at the end of making Light of the Moon, we wrote Hold On, and we just played on it and played on it and played on it. And everywhere we would go play, lots of people liked that song. You would hear people singing it by the second and third verse. And I was like, well, that's a good sign. I've always thought it was a good sign. So when we went to Nashville in 2016, we decided to record that. Started off strong and everything. Like I said, we got to this mixing stage. It was like, I don't know what it was. We would leave Nashville and it was like the most coolest sounding stuff ever. And then we would get home and get the mixes and we're like, why does it sound so weak? Fast forward, I meet Wolf in 2019, 2020, we're tracking this record and I show him these songs. He's like, dude, you want me to try to remix them? I was like, yeah. And he's like, actually, let's just re-record Hold On. I like it. So we start from Hold On from scratch, re-record it. And that's when I let him come in and help with some of the vocal edits. He's like, the song's like there. Remember the original line was, I met my lover many years ago. She was a fine young mother. Wouldn't you know? And I was like, you know, what I'm trying to say is like, I met my mom many years ago. She's an amazing woman, like not necessarily my lover or anything. He's like, yeah, it's very conflicting. He's like, the song doesn't make sense. So we rewrote the lyrics to where it made more sense of what we're trying to say in here and hold on, you know? And so, we produced that. I pretty much solely did all the guitar work, the bass work, everything on that except for the drums. I did the vocals, brought a guy here in town named Stephen Hall. He came in and did some of those incredible backing vocals. And then.
So you went back after you had already recorded it before he remixed it, and you went back and retracked a lot of the stuff and changed the lyrics up?
So he didn't remix Hold On. He was just like, let's just start from scratch and redo Hold On.
Oh.
So we redo Hold On completely. And what we did is we took some stems from that old Hold On track. I had a really good friend, Micah Cottingham, who moved to Nashville at the time we were out there. She came out and recorded these epic. Then, you know, there's really great female vocals you hear in the track, the backing track. She did that in Nashville in 2016. Well, he just flew those into the session that we did of Hold On and kind of helped recreate a couple of the parts we used in Nashville and transferred them over to the session in the new Hold On song that we did. So me, Stephen Hall, and Micah all have vocals on that. And after I did all the guitar work and stuff and came back, I showed the guys and they were like, dude, everything sounds really good. Like there's really no room for us to put anything on there. I think you did a great job. And right before we closed it down, I was like, Mike, you sure you don't want to try something on there? He gets on and lays down this sick line there at the end. It's like right when it gets to the just keep holding part. It's like this little guitar like bend line, and it's epic. It's beautiful. Great addition. So we add that in and bam, we're there. I said, wow. Took it, you know, showed Derek, cause Derek was involved in the recording in 2016 in Nashville of Hold On. And I showed him, we compared the best mix we could find of that track from 2016 and then took, you know, the almost best mix of Hold On from Wolf in 2020. And he's like, dude, it's night and day, man. He's like, this is what we wanted. This is what we've asked for year after year after year. We're like looking for this sound. And so
that's wonderful. So it shows that you basically took a song that could have just been flat, not even in the quality of the mix, but in the song itself, and then reworked it, brought it up to where you, with somebody else's input, and really made a fantastic, fuller sounding track. That's amazing, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, Fred, can we take a listen to another track off of Halfway to Somewhere?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Great. All right. Take a listen to Don't Leave Me Lonely.
I say I got to go. There's this place down by the coast. Oh no. Oh mama, may I? If you say you think you know, well let me show you the way I go. Got a pop top, we can drop it down, take a ride on the way now. We are young, feels good, let go, get down on the way now. My mama told me one day a love like you would own me. Ooh, my mama told me one day a love like you would own me. Don't leave me lonely. Don't leave me lonely. This time is sticking slow. We just got to let it roll.
Fred, so this is one of those tracks I'm listening to on the whole album. They're all different tracks, but I really enjoy listening to this recording and how all the songs just kind of seem to fit together. Can you fill us in a little bit about Don't Leave Me Lonely?
Yeah, man. Don't Leave Me Lonely was that track I mentioned before we wrote with Brandon Hart. Brandon Hart, Israel Gore, Bradley Cannon was there. And we just did it in a studio one night. I think we rolled up about 8 or 9 o'clock and went until about 2. And it was done, really. That was where we stopped. I never even had much thought about releasing it as my song because I was like, you know, ultimately there's some co-writers on this. It doesn't really sound like Late Night Special, you know, it's not really our vibe. And then just more and more I listened to it, I was like, good God. And I was on the way back from California in 2017, I think, late 2017, maybe 2018. Sometimes it runs together. Anyways, coming back, driving like 15 hours this day. I decided to drive back from California in 3 days to make a show in Boone that I had to get to. I drive back, and this like night before my show in Boone, I drive like 15 hours that day, arrive at like 11:30, 12 at night, maybe even a little later. Brandon's in the studio. He's like, I'm up, you know, we just got back from the bar. Let's work on some of those tracks. Bring that hard drive with you and let's do this. We get the hard drive there and we open up Don't Leave Me Lonely and we start messing with it. I think we worked on Don't Leave Me Lonely and Don't Forget Your Past that night. And we just finished up the final touches on it. And I was like, man, this song's so good. The solo at the end of Don't Leave Me Lonely, when it comes into that solo, it's so good. I mean, Brandon works with a lot of Nashville cats, a lot of really, really, really good Nashville guitar players. But working with Brandon really brought out these like very well produced, like big production sounds. Like you hear, and like, I mean, I'm not a huge country guy, but sometimes when you listen to some of these country tracks, man, the production on them is so good. Mm-hmm. A lot of that rubbed off on Brandon when we made Don't Leave Me Lonely, and he put some really good tracks down, and it's just it's a vibey song, man. I really liked it.
All right, so Fred, we're going to go a different angle, all right? So we've been talking about music, and one of the things I'm now starting to become more curious with talking with younger bands is the role that social media is going to have or has with their band. So does social media have some kind of impact with your band? Or are you constantly posting on Instagram or Facebook to kind of engage your audience? How does it work for you?
Yeah, I think social media is a huge tool. It doesn't work for me a lot. I mean, because I don't put enough into it. I'll be completely honest. A lot of times I'm not, I guess, putting enough into social media. That's one thing is on my 2021 goals, is to be more active on social media. It's a huge tool. Mm-hmm. I heard something the other day. Somebody said, you know, but social media is so flooded. And I found myself crutching that excuse all the time. Like, it's so flooded with crap I don't want to see, or blah, blah, blah. And someone said, yeah, social media is flooded, but, like when you drive to eat fast food, like, isn't there 4 other fast food restaurants around that fast food restaurant? Like, isn't the market flooded? And I was like, wow.
Right.
Okay, let's go. The market's flooded, but it doesn't stop those people from having success. So you have to get out there, and in that sense of a restaurant, it doesn't stop, you know, a mom and pop sandwich shop from opening up right beside it, because they serve a completely different thing, an all organic breakfast versus have to eat McDonald's, you know. So like what I'm trying to say is, like, even though there's a saturated market in social media, you still have to put yourself out there, and you can still find ways to get to people through it. It's a great access and source. And that's one thing, like I said, I've tried to work on that here in 2021, and through listening to people who I'm trying to have mentor me into that. That's what they're, you know, they're like, dude, yeah, so what? It's saturated. Like you have a talent, get it out there. This is a free way for you to get yourself out here, and you just got to be consistent. You got to be on here. And people like this, man, they like getting, you know, and I enjoy myself just releasing and talking about music and talking about the industry. So people really love this, like, very personal level. And, you know, there's so many more platforms opening up for this to happen where people can talk. Social media is a great one. Get out there and talk to people, you know, be yourself.
Yeah. It's interesting. With social media, the only downfall is for musicians, it's yet another thing that you have to engage with that takes you away from playing your instrument or writing. I mean, we talked about it earlier. If you're learning your DAW, your digital audio workstation, you got to learn how to use that. You've got to learn how to use social media. You've got to engage in learning your instrument and then doing the songwriting. I mean, there's just so much today that it's not just like, hey, let's just focus on the music.
Yeah.
So it creates yet another thing that musicians have to do to get their music out there.
Yeah, it does, man. And the checklist is huge, and the risk reward level, I guess, and success, if you want to argue, is that, you know, like, who's going to do it? If you're not going to do it, guess what? Somebody else is.
as you said before, it's another skill to just have to develop and utilize today. So we've been all living through COVID for the last year. How has that affected Late Night Special as a band? What's been the impact for you guys?
We definitely haven't got to do a lot of live playing out. We've still done a couple things and very grateful for all that, but we haven't got to do a ton. And, as far as, when this first started, I was big on like, make sure like, guys, this could be rough, but like, let's come out on top, like people are going to come out on top of this. Let's be one of them, like we don't have to suffer. We can make the most of it for ourselves. And in doing that, we didn't quite, I guess, meet my expectations. I really wanted to get up a lot more through this whole thing and do a lot more, content creating and stuff. But I think we consciously put a lot of effort into each other's thoughts of like, hey, if you do want to be involved in this band and you do want success from music, like
right,
financial success at least, where you can keep pursuing what you want to do and play music. Then we have to buckle down. We got to start treating this like a job. And that's one thing I've really transitioned more into through the pandemic. It helped me channel a lot more organization into what we're doing, why we are doing it, and where we are going. And, I'm just trying to be a better leader for the guys. Cause ultimately Late Night Special is something I started years ago, and the guys always call it my baby. And I'm like, I guess, yeah, it is my baby, but like, it can be yours too. It can be our thing. Like, I want you guys to be in this with your heart. And if you're not, no hard feelings, but like we're not really going to go anywhere if you don't have your heart in it. And so consciously over this last year, I said, put it in your mind and put it in your thoughts, and that's why I was saying when we're trying to choose a drummer, I'm not trying to put any pressure on anybody, but I don't want anybody just to be playing with us just for a check. I want them to enjoy what we do and where we're going. And my original vision for the band and being a musician was to spread a message that is positive and powerful to the world and help change the world for the better, man, and give people the light in the dark times. And that's, I wrote that down many years ago in a journal entry, and I always find myself going back and reading it to remind myself to watch out chasing success in music and remember why you're here. You're here for a message and maybe a greater purpose than success. I mean, I want success, so I don't have to keep working like a dog the rest of my life. But at the same time, working really hard for something makes it so much more pleasurable at the end, and it also builds immense character. So
honestly, success is in the eye of the beholder. What do you consider success? Is it playing to a stadium full of fans and making millions of dollars and selling millions of albums? For me, I mean, I make my living totally for music. I mean, I'm a teacher during the day, but I'm a music teacher. I never thought I'd be doing music full time. I get to work with kids. I get to record. I get to perform live. I get to do a lot of stuff musically, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so successful doing what I wanted to do. Did I make $1 million? No. Am I happy? Yes. And I'm doing music, which is just something I thought I would do, but I never imagined that I would be doing it for the next 25 or 30 years when I started. It's just unimaginable to me. So that to me is successful.
Absolutely. And it's so powerful. I had a friend say something a year or two ago. He was like, if you're a musician and you're not teaching music, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, man, I feel really guilty. I'm not teaching music. I don't teach. And I don't feel like I'm a great teacher, but that's why I'm always willing to talk. I love to talk, and I would love to help people, maybe not in the direction of teaching them actual music theory, but trying to help people, organize and structure their plans for their own personal success, like whatever their vision is, whether it be big or small. I love sharing what I've learned and what I've had to struggle through and what I see as issues for artists that I would love to solve before they even have to get there, big brother them, like, hey, I did this, don't do it.
And Fred, that's probably your idea for the podcast that you were talking about. Start your podcast and help other musicians with issues that they're having.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, Fred, we're looking ahead into 2021. We just got into January. what do you guys have coming up for a late night special in 2021? Any specific plans that you want? I know COVID, of course, given, but what things are you guys looking forward to doing?
Man, we've got a great year coming up. We're going to be releasing some more music, I do believe, in the next couple months. We don't have dates nailed down for that, but you'll be able to find all that latenightspecial.net. We'll have tour dates coming up. We latter 2019, I got with some people on a festival called Nightlight Sky Lantern Festival, and played as their feature artist for a show in Dallas, Texas. And they asked me to do a show 2 weeks later in Detroit, Michigan. And then following that, they asked me to jump on for the 2020 tour. We did the first 2 shows of 2020, canceled the rest of them until October. We did 5 shows in October. And after that, they asked me if I could come on board to do the 2021. And they want to bring the full band on, I think 5 out of the 12 shows. And that's huge, man. I've told everybody, I had a couple of friends and a couple of family members come out to some of the ones last year, and you see these videos of these lantern festivals, and they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but it never really hit me until I went and did one. And man, when these lanterns go up in the sky, we're talking like Dallas the first year was 20,000 people releasing these lanterns for like 5 minutes. These things are just even flow going up in the sky, and it like literally almost brings you to tears of not happiness, not sadness, just this overwhelming enjoyment of emotion. Seeing this, it's like the eighth wonder of the world, man. It's beautiful. And so being a part of that has been great. And to get locked down the contract for 2021 and be bringing the band along this year, we're going to be doing, I think, 4 or 5 of the shows right here on the East Coast with the band. And they're all big crowds in places we've never been before. And, with the new album coming out, and our past album having such good success, we're psyched on it, like it seems like another great year. And this is kind of what was going on in 2020. We had this huge thing going on and, big plans. And then like when everything got canceled, it was kind of a bummer. We didn't get to do our album release, but I was like, man, this could be cool because we're a little unprepared to be promoting this album and doing the release and doing the tour. Like I still think we need a little bit of work. That way when we go out, we stomp it in the ground, baby. We do the best we can. And so 2021 is here creeping up on us. We've got the same opportunity. Another album coming out. This last album's done great. We have momentum. People like our music. People are reaching out, interacting with us. And I'm just trying, again, to be the best leader I can be for the guys, to really inspire them, to go win the Super Bowl. Like, let's do this, man. Like, let's grab this while we have momentum and really take advantage of what we're doing. So we got that whole thing coming up. That's going to be it starts in May, and there's 3 shows in May, takes a 3-month break, and then there's like another 11 shows from basically September to November 1st. And following that, Shakedown is back. We're trying to bring Shakedown back this year. We're going to do a socially distanced music festival in Concord, North Carolina on May 15th. It's going to be the Crown Town Shakedown. We're going to have a couple local Charlotte artists. We're going to have some artists from Charleston as well, some regionally touring artists. And
great.
It's going to be great, man. And like I said, we're going to try to offer a very safe, very convenient concert experience for all those people who've been missing music. And we think the farm and the outdoor experience is going to be the best way to do it. So big things coming up with that. If that is successful and we are allowed to do it by the CDC guidelines, which we're fingers crossed on that, we're going to try to get a series going through the summer and give people an option to come to an outdoor show if they feel comfortable. You don't want to, not trying to upset anybody, but as a musician, who plays and is trying to release music and maintain these marketable crowds, we need these things, man. We need these shows coming back. I hate the venues haven't found a way to rally and get back open, but I understand. But as someone who feels responsible in the Charlotte community, we want to bring this back. Originally, Shakedown was built to give local artists a feel of a bigger show experience, and that's what we built it into. And we're ready to, we had a 2-year break where we didn't do it. We're ready to get back on that. So late night specials involved in that. And along with, like I said, a year of some national touring, we're just looking up, man. We feel we're so blessed to be, in the position we are. We're so thankful for all the support from everybody. And again, to be in a city where told people this many a times. If I would have came up in Nashville the way I came up, so unorthodox, I may have been discouraged and pushed right out of such a competitive scene. But to grow up in Charlotte where it wasn't so competitive, a lot of people have been willing to work with us and let us in and help us out where they can. I feel very blessed. You know, we were able to establish, you know, somewhat of some rapport here in our city because, you know, it's not so overpacked with talent. It's not so saturated with, you know, like a city like New York or LA or Nashville is, you know, so.
I think it's coming though, man. As Charlotte starts to grow, we're going to get more talent here and a lot more bands, I think, as we start to grow. So I'm looking forward to it because I can see since I've moved here how much the city has grown and how many more musicians and artists and all the stuff that's going on here. So I'm looking forward
Absolutely.
to it.
And, you know, we're excited about that, you know, it becoming, you know, I think it has high potential to be a music city and that's what we want to do. And that's why, you know, I'm glad to see you doing this, man. Like we really appreciate it. You know, it's speaking for the scene because there's not enough of this in Charlotte. You know, there's not enough people talking about the music. There's not enough columns in the paper. There's not enough going out about the arts community and how strong it is here and how it can be, you know, a staple part of the culture in the city. Lots of good talent. So, you know, I'm looking forward to pushing that.
I'm just trying to do my part and you know, give everybody a little information on what's happening here and how wonderful the artists are and what a wonderful town we live in. So
yeah, we appreciate it, man. Again, like I said, thank you.
Hey, Fred, as we start to close things out, can you fill everybody in on how we can get in contact with you and the guys from Late Night Special?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on Facebook, you know, all the social media. You can look us up on Facebook. It's Late Night Special is the band. Late Night Special Music on Instagram. Or go ahead, you can go on our website, latenightspecial.net is the website. All this Late Night Special gets me confused. But, and then again, if you're looking, to, you know, get involved with our festival Shakedown, or the Crowntown Shakedown 2021, just head on over to shakedown.rocks. We're going to have a, submission page up here in the next couple of weeks as we're looking for some volunteers for the festival. And, moving forward, if we decide to do the concert series, we'd love to get more of these Charlotte bands who've been on the show and stuff involved and maybe even get you out there to do a live podcast from the fest.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I'd love to do it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep me in touch. All right, Fred. Well, thanks so much for coming on today, man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and finding out all about Late Night Special.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you, man. Good talking to you, dude. Great host. Great host.
All right. Thanks, dude. Have a great day.
And that will bring episode 42 of the Queen City Music Podcast to a close. If you would have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please check out our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com and Reporting from 20XX at reportingfrom20xx.wordpress.com. Until next month, be well and stay safe.